Inmates and their families say Wisconsin's only youth prison is failing them. Years of controversy surrounding Lincoln Hills Copper Lake schools came to a head in June. A corrections officer died, attacked by two inmates at the facility. Tonight, Braden Ross and Will Keneally are digging into the system in crisis, gathering firsthand accounts of life inside and getting answers from officials on what's being done to improve it. Braden joins us now with the first half of this two-part investigation. Braden?
Yeah, we're bringing you these stories in the midst of growing tensions between Republicans and Democrats at the Capitol building over Lincoln Hills Copper Lake schools. We'll touch on that later tonight. But first, I wanted to give you a glimpse behind the barbed wire and hear what it's really like for staff on the inside. Take a look.
Remember that?
If you ask Lisa and Mark Brenner how they fell in love, they'll tell you the truth.
We tell everybody we met in prison.
Okay, it's not quite what you're thinking.
When you work together, you have 8 hours to sit and share, you know.
We used to sit there and
Talk and laugh.
and share our whole life stories.
Back in the early 2000s, they were both guards at Lincoln Hills Copper Lake Schools, the Department of Corrections' largest youth prison in the state.
It's a bonding thing. You trust this person with your life when you turn your back. You know what I mean? They got your six.
Lisa worked at Lincoln Hills for nearly a decade before Mark showed up in 2003. Before moving north, he spent 18 years working at Mendota Mental Health Institute, a secure psychiatric hospital for adults in Madison.
Everything was structured. We had paperwork, incident reports.
But Mark says Lincoln Hills was a different story.
I looked at her and I go, what is going on in this institution?
Both Brenners have witnessed and experienced violence at the hands of Lincoln Hills inmates many times.
I've had surgeries, gotten in between fights.
Toilet bowl cocktails thrown in my face, which is a mixture of poop and pee.
We had a girl that beat her head up against the wall constantly, and me having to put my hand back there and she beats it and blood's all over the place. And you had to stop her, but you couldn't hurt her.
They say trying to stop those outbursts saved lives, but they often feared being disciplined for the split-second decisions they had to make.
That fraction of a second of hesitation might cost that kid his life.
In the early 2010s, Lincoln Hills Copper Lake faced increasing scrutiny from lawmakers, advocacy groups, and inmates' families. The Brenners say that pressure meant the rules made by DOC leadership in Madison changed all the time.
Don't lock them up. Do lock them up. Don't handcuff them. Do. You know, it was confusing for us. Your hands are just tied.
Lisa left Lincoln Hills in 2013. Mark followed 1 year later.
The choices, the confusion, the psychological effects before and after. I still have dreams. I still have nightmares.
Now, 10 years later, a lot of these problems still haven't been solved. According to the Department of Corrections, there have been 150 youth assaults on staff at Lincoln Hills Copper Lake in 2024 alone. One of those incidents left 49-year-old CO Corey Prue dead.
What was your initial reaction?
Tragedy. Tragedy. Horrible.
Not surprised.
So, Braden, after all of that, what do they think needs to change here?
Yeah, well, I asked them that question. Let's take a look at what they said.
What do you think needs to change?
Every day you go in there, every individual, your life's at risk. And you have to know that as a staff worker, the job's not a joke. They just need to have tools and structure and guidance.
As we mentioned, Braden worked with political reporter Will Keneally on this story, and Will joins us now breaking down what structure and guidance could look like moving forward.
Yeah, well, the same debate is playing out in the State House right now.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of this is unfolding within the last 24 hours here. The policy for how corrections officers use things like pepper spray at the prison is governed by a federal consent decree. Now, Republican lawmakers have been urging the state's Democratic governor to ask a federal judge to revise that decree. But yesterday, the Evers administration said no, they want to keep the current policy in place. Now, that's to prevent the prison from going back to what they describe as inhumane conditions. Now, as part of our special report, we brought questions to the Corrections Secretary about how they plan to move forward.
Would you, in the administration, consider asking the judge to amend the consent decree at all?
We need to have more discussion on that. I think there were a lot of things that I heard today that were outside of the consent decree and things that we have an opportunity to look at and do some self-reflection and self-improvement maybe, regardless of what the consent decree says. So.
Now we'll have more on the solutions lawmakers are considering going forward, including how close we might be to seeing Lincoln Hills closed. Now we'll have more on that coming up tonight at 10.
We look forward to that. Will, Braden, thank you for your reporting here. We appreciate that. Now,